Hey, and welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. I'm your host, JR, presented and brought to you by FanDuel, as we are going to get to our Northwestern transfer portal recap now. Got most of the Big Ten done. Wanted to wait a little bit on Northwestern, as it looked like they were still adding some guys last week. Looks like they've added mostly, if not everybody, into their transfer portal class. So, of course, we have Louie Vaccher here with us, the Wildcat Report, the On3 affiliate of Northwestern and everything over there. They do great work. Love Louie's work. They run a really good message board and everything over there that I check out from time to time. Louie, you do great work over there. Is there anywhere else you want people to go check out your content at?
Appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, it's wildcatreport.com is the site, like you alluded to. And then I'm at Wildcat Report on X. That's really where you can find me.
There you go. Excellent Northwestern coverage over there that Louie does. So go check him out. All right. So Louie, we got the Big Ten schedule out, and we are talking about the transfer portal, but I did want to bring up, in my opinion, it looks like Northwestern might have the most difficult schedule in the Big Ten. Do you feel like this team is set up well for this schedule? I mean, bye in week 2 and then, just get the rest of the entire schedule. Would have been great to have, 2 bye weeks again this year. But of course, that doesn't work out the way the calendar goes. And I know everybody wants to, be upset with the calendar in college football, myself included. Don't get me wrong. It's not exactly set up super well. But do you, after seeing the schedule and everything and seeing the transfer portal, the way everything went, how optimistic, how good do you feel about David Braun and the Wildcats this season coming up?
Well, to answer your question, I don't know if anybody is ready for that kind of schedule. I mean, I looked at, the first thing I noticed was the away games. They're at Indiana, national champion Indiana. Then they go to Oregon, CFP semifinalists, and they go to Ohio State. They also have a trip to Michigan State, which is where, of course, Pat Fitzgerald, the head coach, the all-time winningest coach at Northwestern and one of the greatest players of all time, they got fired. And so there's going to be a lot of emotions there as well. And, it's a brutal schedule. And I think so the schedule itself is going to be really tough, as it usually is. And then they have the new stadium thing, because it looks like, there's a lot of questions of whether it's going to be ready for the opener this year. And then so it's, what game will they play at home? Will it be Colorado on September 19th? Will they wait for Penn State October 3rd? And when is the new stadium going to be ready? So they may play again a game or two at Martin Stadium and then move into Ryan Field. So there's a lot of question marks around that as well, just to make it a little more challenging. So yeah, it's a gauntlet for sure. And, they've got a lot of new pieces this year through the portal and things, and they're going to have to get up to speed awfully fast. And then on top of that too, they got a home date to open South Dakota State. I mean, that's a dangerous game right there, right? That's a FCS powerhouse, certainly there's the chance of embarrassment, right? So
some of those FCS teams are the most dangerous in week 1 because they have the entire season in front of them, and they're coming out and they don't have any injuries. They're not banged up at all. And, a lot of those kids in FCS, they just have not reckless abandon, but just, complete confidence in themselves to be able to go in and play a team. I think if you look back, a lot of the teams that struggle with FCS teams is, and normally about week 1 or week 2, just because those FCS teams do come out so fired up, so ready to go. So you're exactly right. South Dakota State, I'm not picking Northwestern to lose that game or anything, but it is a game that I think is probably going to need some more attention than maybe some people realize. Some attention I want to give is on the offensive side of the ball for Northwestern. We'll get into all the additions and stuff like that here in a minute, but the biggest addition is obviously Chip Kelly as the offensive coordinator, but he gets his quarterback, Aidan Chiles. Aidan Chiles didn't, have everything work out for him there at the end at Michigan State. He got replaced. Some of the fans kind of wanted to see something new in that situation. I was somebody that still felt like Aidan Chiles had a whole lot of talent, just didn't work out for him there. Not much of an offensive line in front of him. I mean, what are just your thoughts on the addition of Aidan Chiles and how he fits into a Chip Kelly offense?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit it on the head, right? He had a very up and down career at Michigan State. In 2024, I think he had like 13 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. So he had some turnover issues. And like you said, the blocking wasn't great. Michigan State really struggled. Last year, he was a little better. I think it was 10 touchdowns, 3 picks. So he took care of the ball a little bit better. But, ultimately, they did go in the direction of the freshman there. I think trying to find a spark as well. And then he got injured and, so it didn't go out well. And then Jonathan Smith, whom he followed from Oregon State, ended up getting fired. So, I think the hope is that he's a better fit for a Chip Kelly kind of offense. I mean, if you watch the guy, like you mentioned, he's got some real talent. He's a dual threat guy. He can run, he can throw it, he's really a threat not only to evade the rush, but really make some yards. He ran for 200 yards in each of his 2 years at MSU. So the hope is that he's a better fit for that offense. Chip Kelly likes that read option game. Maybe he can be a poor man's Dennis Dixon or something like that he had at Oregon. I'm not comparing him to Dennis Dixon. He's not going to be that kind of a player, but he's got that kind of skill set, I think.
Right.
And, the hope is that he can spark the offense that, really struggled in 2 years under the previous offensive coordinator, Zach Lujan. So, we'll have to see, but I think I'm optimistic that the offense and Chip Kelly coaching him and Jerry Neuheisel also came from UCLA, is now the quarterback's coach, that they can get a little bit more out of him, and running that offense, he'll be more productive than he was in East Lansing.
Yeah, I'm with you. We didn't really see a whole lot of kind of the up-tempo stuff with Ohio State, but I think after watching Ohio State this year, that was something that you seemed to be exactly what Ryan Day wanted to do. He wants to slow everything down, not do as many snaps, kind of keep the tempo down a little bit more. And so I wouldn't use what he did at Ohio State a whole lot, just because it felt like that was kind of Ryan Day's doing there, but he did run the up tempo at Oregon years back, and he did do it at UCLA as well. So we might see more of that at Northwestern, and I think it's going to be an exciting brand of football to watch on the offensive side. The rest of the transfer portal, Northwestern was able to add a number of players to the team there. What are some of your thoughts on the other additions? Who excites you? Who are some guys that you think are going to make a big impact this coming year?
Yeah, they did a real nice job in the portal. They got 16 new guys. There may be a straggler or two, but I think they're largely done right now. They picked up 3 offensive tackles. They got a couple tight ends, a couple running backs. They really addressed some needs on the offense. Got a couple corners, couple defensive ends. These were all positions of need. I think the guys I'm excited about, one of them in particular, and this one's kind of an interesting one, Luke Dehnicke, who came from Minnesota Duluth, a Division II program. And this guy, I tell you, I watched some tape of him. He's 6'5", 230, and he was a man among boys out there, just a tremendous athlete. He was a redshirt freshman, right, getting his first action. He had, I got him down here, 61 catches, 1,119 yards, and 14 touchdowns. As a redshirt freshman, right? So it was obvious he needed to go to the next level. He got like 9 Power 4 offers, ended up at Northwestern. So I'm really excited to see what, and Chip Kelly likes to run a lot of that 12 personnel with 2 tight ends, and he could be that receiving threat. Other than Griffin Wilde, they don't have a whole lot of production at the wide receiver. So I think he's a guy that they can really turn into a weapon. So that's a guy I'm really looking for. Another guy, offensive tackle. They picked up 3 offensive tackles this year, and they signed 4 in the 2026 class. So this was a big need. Yeah, but the guy I think is most ready to go, Grant Seagren, who was from Oklahoma State, started all 12 games last year. PFF said he had no sacks and 405 passing attempts or something like that. He played right tackle. I think he could play either side in Northwestern, but he's a guy that I think will come in and start from day one, and that's something that they really need to address. They lost both their starting tackles from last year. And then another one interesting to me is a running back, Gavin Sawchuck, who he was a 4-star kid out of high school, went to Oklahoma, played there 3 years, and then he went to Florida State last year. He's a guy that's run for over 1,400 yards in his career. by far the more than anybody that they have coming back. And it'll be interesting to me to see how Chip Kelly handles this too, right? So will he split carries like they did at Ohio State with Trevion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins? So will it be him and Caleb Komolafe, or will Sawchuck be more of a slot guy that they maybe move around as an all-purpose guy? That's going to be really interesting to watch. So they picked up a couple weapons on offense that they sorely need. And, that and the addition of Chip Kelly, there are some things to, be optimistic about for Northwestern's offense coming into the season.
For sure. And I think that almost everybody knows that, David Braun is going to have the defensive unit solid, and they're going to be very fundamentally sound. He always seems to have that defensive unit ready there. I mean, we were talking about it before the show, but I think a lot of people kind of forgot, what David Braun was able to do in his first season, a season where not a lot of people thought they'd win any more than one, maybe two games. They go out, they win their bowl game, they get to 8 wins that year. Obviously, 2024 was a bit of a disappointment, but you get back to 6 wins in the regular season this past year when people were kind of counting you out. I remember my co-host Zach Guggenheim, he picked Northwestern to win 6 games, and he got kind of called out a little bit by one of my other co-hosts saying, "What are you doing? Why are you picking him?" Long behold, Zach was right. He knew what he was talking about, and he really believed in David Braun. And so I do think that going into this next season, even though it is a tough schedule and everything else, you get the offensive guru type of guy and Chip Kelly, and you get the really solid defense from David Braun and some of these additions. I'm not saying Northwestern's going to go out and win 8 games or anything like that, but I do think, Northwestern, regardless of what the record is next season, because the schedule is going to be rough, it is a team that everybody's going to need to make sure they circle on their schedule and say, that's not a gimme for anybody.
Yeah, and I think if they get to a bowl game again, that would be a successful season for them. And I'll tell you something about David Braun. David Braun's, he's such a nice guy, and he's got this kind of aw shucks demeanor about him, But he really, I tell you, the last couple of years, he's made some moves behind the scene that really impressed me. Like this year, so 2024, you mentioned, they really dropped off. Offense was terrible. This year, they went out and got the quarterback in Preston Stone. He had kind of a mixed season a little bit. They were better, but still not great. And he fired the offensive coordinator, who's a guy that he brought in 2 years ago from South Dakota State, Zach Lujan, a close personal friend. And I thought that was a big boy move. And then to go out there and get a Chip Kelly, a big name like that's been an NFL head coach in Oregon and Ohio State and all that. And then to bring in Neuheisel as well, kind of a rising star as a quarterback's coach. So, I mean, he really addressed that at the end of the season. After they lost to Michigan, he talked about, don't let our niceness fool you, that they want to compete. They're there to compete for Big Ten titles and to get to the playoff. And everybody kind of rolled their eyes. But, everybody knew the offense was the issue. And they went out and they got Chip Kelly. They went out, they got Neuheisel. They went out and got the quarterback, and they addressed needs through the portal. They picked up an offensive line coach. They really did some things that, it really shows he's a little more shrewd, I think, than people give him credit for. And he's a guy that can lead the program into this, into going into the new stadium and with the portal and all those challenges and things like that. I think he was a little more ready than people thought he'd be, I think.
Well, and in this new era of college football, you have to be aggressive. You have to be shrewd. I mean, there's no real years off or anything for college football coaches now, because you have the portal and everything else. And if you say, well, we're still developing our guys, the thought process is, well, you should have developed them last year when they were, getting ready, because you have the transfer portal to go to if you didn't develop. So,
that's exactly right.
It's a crazy world of college football out there. So I like to hear that about David Braun, that he's willing to go out there and do some of that stuff. I was concerned he was going to bring Zach Lujan back. I was not super impressed with Zach Lujan in 2024. And I said in 2025, if he didn't get it right with Preston Stone, and to his credit, Preston Stone did improve throughout the season. I thought he was much better at the end of the year. But when you get a chance to hire Chip Kelly, I think you kind of have to make that move there. So
absolutely.
Louie, let's switch over to the departures really fast, and this is kind of where we'll end things. Northwestern added a good amount of guys, like we talked about. Some of the departures, you do lose Anto Saka. Hunter Welsing goes to Ohio State. He wasn't a big contributor until I think just last year was his really first year, maybe 2 years ago, were his first years of really making an impact statistically, production-wise with the team and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on some of the departures? Anybody that you feel like Northwestern's going to miss, and how do you feel like they did replacing those guys?
Yeah, well, I think you hit the two guys I was going to mention, right? Anto Saka, who's, that guy, I tell you, he has like first round talent, right? He's a fast twitch guy, but he never produced a whole lot, right? You never saw that too much on the field. Like this year, I think he had 13 tackles, 3 sacks. It just never came together for him. And I think that, Northwestern would love to have him back. I would have loved to seen him come back, but not at a high price. I think that may have been a budget kind of thing, that they're not going to pay him huge. We want you back, but we're not going to pay you, like a top of the line first round guy, so to speak. So that was one I think was calculated a little bit. And, he ended up at Texas A&M, wish him all the best there. And, he got his degree and all that kind of stuff. So they're going to miss him. I think they picked up a couple in the portal, so we'll see how they do there. And then Hunter Welsing, like you mentioned, now that's a guy, he had 1 catch going into last year, and he came up with 28 catches. He had a couple touchdowns and really became not a focal point, but a big contributor to that offense. In 5 years, he had 2 ACL tears, right? He battled back through all that and finally had that season. And then I know we interviewed him during the year, and he had said that he was probably going to hang him up, that there was injuries and everything. But he had a change of heart at some point and decided to go out there, and he ended up, like you said, at Ohio State. And if, you got a chance to do that, sure, and he's another guy. I really hope he does well there. It's his 6th year of football and everything. So he really had a phenomenal senior year, or last year, I should say. It was his 5th year. And you love to see that all that hard work paid off for him. So he's a guy, I'll be rooting for with the Buckeyes.
For sure. I mean, even with those guys heading out, Northwestern was able to keep some guys, right? You mentioned Griffin Wilde earlier. Is Michael Kilbane, is he back?
He is back, yeah.
All right.
Caleb Komawafe and Joseph Hyman, they did pretty well in retention. I think that's a big part of, David Brown always says they're more of a development program. So a lot of it, you don't want to develop guys and then see them leave when you got them to a Big Ten level of play, and then they leave on you. So retention is where they're going to focus, and they did a pretty good job there. I think they made some pretty good pickups in the portal that at least address needs, and we'll have to see how they come together. And that schedule is what it is. It's going to be tough, but I think they'll have a better team this year, certainly offensively, 100%. I think defense will be similar. Offense should be better, and we'll see how they do.
Love to hear it. All right, Louie, thank you so much for your time coming on. Was there anything else that we did not get to transfer portal wise that you want to talk about before we get out of here?
No, I think that's it. I think we covered everything we should, and that's where things stand right now.
All right. Great stuff. Louie, really appreciate it. Like I said, everybody go check out the Wildcat Report. They're on 3, the Northwestern affiliate for them. They do a great job. And like I said, great message board, everything else. If you have an On 3 subscription, go check it out. Even if you don't, go check it out. They have free content that is also excellent as well. So I want to remind you, we do have more of these coming out. Go to the transfer portal playlist down below for all of the transfer portal recaps. We have a few more: Washington, Purdue, teams like that we still need to do, but for the most part, just about everybody's in there. Just got done with Indiana, just got done with Michigan, USC. We got Ohio State and Oregon done early on as well. So go check out all those recaps. The rankings do a pretty good job for what they can do, but at the end of the day, I think you get the real story of what teams were able to do in the transfer portal by watching videos like this and hearing from experts by like Louie and other guys and people out there covering the team. So again, thank you, Louie. Thank you, everybody who listened and watched in this episode. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.